Hey everybody, this is Dr. Lilly, and I want to talk to you briefly about the second week of working of your WordPress website's module and basically go over what you need to do real briefly. And the goal of this week is to get a lot of your portfolio content up on your website and kind of figure out how you want it to look and if you're liking the way it looks or you don't like it and you want to rearrange it, there should be plenty of time for that. And your goal is to get ready for next week. And next week we're going to have critiques in the Zoom sessions. And I will also cover a few other things in the list that you need to achieve for um, to get ready for the critiques, but also remember that the guidelines for what I'm going to be looking for when I grade this module is right here, this long list. So in my weekly overview video at the beginning of next week, I'll go over this list with you and explain a few things. So let's come back to this week and, oops, not this week. Let's go back to the week we're in right now. Okay, so and as I said in the email, we are not going to be meeting in any Zoom sessions tomorrow on Tuesday, but we will on Thursday. So everyone needs to come in at either 11 or 12:30, and it's mostly going to be check-ins to see what your progress is and to answer any questions that anyone has. So for this week, in terms of the tutorials, so this the link to this whole lynda.com tutorial is in the general resources section. And for this week, I want you to watch the videos in Chapter 2, Content Management, and Chapter 3 on working in the block editor. And for content management in general, it's really important that you understand the differences between posts and pages. On a portfolio type website, we are going to be creating pages, not posts. So posts are kind of like basically a blog roll, kind of like daily update posts. And so WordPress manages those a little bit differently than pages, and you're going to be creating actual pages, for example, like a page that has your graphics on it, a page that has your audio and video projects on it, a page that maybe has photography or articles you've written. You're going to have an about page, and you're going to have a resume page. So you're going to be creating pages. And when you use the block editor, when it teaches you how to use the block editor to put content into a page, it's exactly the same way in putting content in a post. So, for example, the other this YouTube video that I've also asked you to check out, or it's kind of an alternative if you want to see this guy work in blocks, and you're not so interested in the way that lynda.com in Chapter 3 talks about the blocks editor. Then
If you are struggling to understand,
you can, I mean, this is 13 minutes, and he goes through lots of different blocks and how to add different types of content in it, like images and headers and all the different things that you can do. And I think he's talking about, okay, well, how do you add work with blocks in a post? But he does say it's exactly the same in a page. So adding blocks, it just means adding content, and whether or not it's a post or a page. So again, this is another resource I gave you here at the bottom, and it would kind of replace doing Chapter 3 on working with blocks from lynda.com. It kind of just depends on which one you choose, and I know that a couple of you were having problems to get into lynda.com. Again, you have to go through, you already have to be logged in through into Loyola, but if not, then you can, it'll ask you for your university credentials, and you just put in your Loyola email and password. You don't have to do the chapter quiz. There are going to be, I'm going to come back for the final exam and look at some of the chapters from this that I've specifically asked you to look for, and making some multiple choice questions. So you might want to take notes as well here. And so let me just show you a couple more things, and I'm going to go back to some pages that students made last year. So next week, so once you create a certain number of pages, then next week you're going to be making sure those pages or some of the pages show up in your menu. And if you look at these, I pulled up two student websites here, and you can see how the menus are very different. Sometimes the menu might just be a little icon with 3 bars to represent, okay, you can click on this and get a menu of different pages. So in Charlie's here, his theme spawns a menu on the left hand side, and eventually he had to come in and say, okay, well, these are the specific pages. Okay, so he has an about page, he has with about information. Some of the information you'll see on some of these sites are items that I'm going to require you to have for the final version of this in December, like a Google Map embed, but not right now. And then he has his resume page. And he has pages for his graphics, so we can just see how he basically put image blocks and then just little text blocks. And with blocks, you're basically usually it's just a block on top of block, and I'll show you in a second, but it is kind of confusing. But we have a header block. Actually, by the way this is showing up here, I could tell that his theme wanted him to do this as a post rather than a page, just because I could tell with the date would be a blog roll, but it doesn't really matter because he's able to bring it in here. So it's a header, text block, image block, text block, image block. There's more kind of fancy ways to do it, but his is relatively simple, but it's getting the job done. And here's one that he has for his photography as well. So it's the same thing, a header block, and then or a title block, and then text block, image block, text block, image block. And for Dina here, she has her theme has the 2 different menus actually. So it has a menu at the very top menu, and then after her header it has another one. You can see that she's chosen to have different pages show up on these different menus. So at the top here she has her contact and about page. Home is always going back to the home page, and she has a more kind of elegant text or paragraph block, and then image block here, or several image blocks here. And then for graphic design, similar. Here she has like a kind of a gallery block. Either that, or it's hard to without looking at the back side or the dashboard of her site. Or she's created a table block, and a table is basically a grid that you can put something in each side, so that you're not just stacking things on top of each other. So this would be a header block, a text block, and then an image block. So if you want to get more complicated or a little bit more of a grid design than just one on top of the other, then you can do a table, or with photos you can do a gallery. But anyway, so next week you'll be or the end of this week you'll be making your menus. But before you can kind of really tell your dashboard, here's what the pages I want to show up in my menus, you have to actually create those pages. So this week you're creating those pages and putting content into them. So how do you do that? So here we have, and so WordPress will just go ahead and it will create some dummy content. And if I don't tell it, I mean, I can come in here. This is a post, the post section. If I want posts, I could go ahead and delete them. But unless I tell it where to show this stuff up, it's not necessarily going to show up anywhere on my blog. It kind of depends on my page. It kind of depends on your theme. It might automatically have put it there somewhere, though. So I think in this template, my template, this actually does show up on my homepage. So eventually I'd have to come through there and say, no, I don't want that content on my homepage. I want something else. So, but we are going to be, all of you are going to be creating pages, not posts. So with these, again, you'll eventually tell it not to your dashboard not to display any of these, but you could even come into them, and I could say, all right, how about for the samples page, I'm going to edit it, and I could just change it up, um, and I could come in here and say, okay, no, this is going to be my about page, and save it under a different name. I'm not going to do that, and I'm just going to show you how to create a page for for the first time. So you could just go to add new. Most of the things in the dashboard, there are usually 2 or 3 ways to do anything. So as you see here, I can go to add new here, or I can go to add new up there. So I'm going to add a title. Let's say this is my about page. So the title is kind of up to you. It could be about me or just about. Usually one word is a little bit more preference. And so it's already created this title block here, and then it's giving me an option to, okay, add a block. And at first, so a paragraph block is basically for adding text, whether it's like one sentence or a whole paragraph. An image block, you add an image. Here's gallery, but you can see here, if we go to browse all, the list is a little bit more extensive. So here, if I want to create a grid, like who was it? I think Dina had a grid with an image in each cell. Then you could do that here, and you could set the border to be 0 so you don't see the grid lines. There's different types of media you can add, and here's more kind of fancy design grids, adding a little bit of space, page break, so on and so forth. And then I think somewhere here we had the image gallery. So this would be good for your monographs and your icons. It's kind of a more fancy way to show them off. But the most simplistic one is just a paragraph theme, and then you just start typing and adding things to it. And once I'm done, I can hit return, and then I can say, okay, now I want to add an image under that. So from one point of view, it's fairly simplistic. You know, here we go, and we would upload the image. And at its most simplistic aspect, it's just a stack of things. So we have the title, and then a paragraph, and then an image. So again, similar to how Charlie has his here, the title, paragraph block, image, image. Looks like he doesn't have any more. Let's choose, and the same thing, basic design he had for his graphics page. Okay, and again, Dina's was a little bit more. Yeah, so here again, she has a grid. Another a column block is where you could have 1 or 2 or 3 columns of content on top of each other. And it looks like here she has a grid with some buttons. You can add downloads to PDFs or articles, and WordPress will automatically create a button to be able to download that PDF or display that PDF. So again, you're focusing first on making your pages, and so now it shows up here. I can come back and edit it. So eventually, for you all, you're gonna, by the time at the end of this module, you're gonna have 5 or 6 pages, and by the time we're done with the final revisions for the final project, you'll probably have about 7 or 8 pages in here, and they're really easy just to go back into edit and add things, and so on and so forth. And then later on, maybe even on Thursday, I will show you how to, once you have several pages, how to tell WordPress, okay, I want these certain pages to be in my menu. And again, each theme will handle the menu items differently. So hers automatically, once she tells it which pages she wants to be in the 2 different menus, it shows up in this configuration. In Charlie's, it shows up in this configuration. Okay, hit the left sidebar. Menu is a little bit less common. Usually, on most of your themes that you might have chosen, they would be maybe it might just even be one menu here at the top, either under or above the header image. Okay, so that's it for now. You should know what you need to be doing between now and Thursday. Ideally, you're going to kind of get started with some of this stuff. So if you have any questions, you can ask me on Thursday. So have a good week, and I'll see you on Thursday.